What would you say to someone who says, I get so hangry, or I have low blood sugar, or it's just too hard? Welcome back to the Kingdom Fasting Podcast. We've been working on a fasting basic series, and basically, why should fasting matter to me? And I'm Brianne Sims, an RN.
I'm Dr. Sam Sims, a nurse anesthesiologist.
And today we're talking about one of the most common objections to fasting. And that is several questions that I have for you.
The excuses.
The excuses, well.
Yeah, I can't fast, really. Right? Because...
Right. What would you say to someone who says, I get so hangry, or I have low blood sugar, or it's just too hard?
Yeah, suck it up, Buttercup. No, I wouldn't say that.
No,
okay.
Not really.
So, let's talk about that. Hangry. I can't fast because I get hangry.
Yeah.
And that is probably the most common thing I hear. The second one is I can't fast because I have this medical diagnosis. They'll come up with one because of this reason. I can't fast because I get hangry. And that was actually my concern. It's one of the most common concern. And hangry is an emotional thing. Your body has gotten used to eating at a certain time. And when you get close to the time when you're going to eat, your body releases a hormone called ghrelin. And ghrelin makes you hungry. I call it the gremlin. Okay? So the gremlin comes on board and I'm hungry, and people get hangry when they don't eat. Your body, when you fast, you actually reset your hormones. And everybody has been in an experience where they've been hungry, but something happened where they got really busy. They got busy at work. Maybe a crisis happened, they got in a car accident, or something chaotic happened in their life where all of a sudden they could not eat.
Yeah, or there's those people who get so busy and then they forget that they haven't eaten. They don't realize how late it is already.
Yeah, they're one of those lucky people. It's like, those blessed people, I guess. Yeah. But everybody's in a situation, especially in healthcare. We've all been in a situation where it's like, oh, I'm hungry. I'm going to go eat. Crisis happens. Something happens. I can't go. Now, it's 2 or 3 hours later, I haven't eaten, and I'm actually not hungry.
Right.
It's because it was a hormone response. And so is it hormones or is it actual hunger? And most of the time, it's actually a hormone response. And the more you fast, ghrelin gets lower and lower. So you're resetting your hormones. But at the beginning, they can be really strong. One of the interesting things is ghrelin is actually trying to get your body to say, okay, I'm worried about low blood sugar. I want you to go eat. Okay?
Right.
But if you don't eat, ghrelin stimulates the release of human growth hormone, which tells your body to burn fat and turn that into sugar. Right. And so it's stimulating fat energy to be used on your body. So when you're feeling hangry or you're like, oh, I'm actually telling my body, if I don't eat, my body will use fat now.
Right. And what a great motivation, when you're feeling hungry, to know that, okay, my body's releasing human growth hormone. That means that I'm going to start burning fat and protecting muscle mass and doing all these good things in my body. So it's great motivation when you're feeling hungry to continue fasting.
Right. So
when it feels hard.
Right. When it feels hard. So how do you I don't want to feel hungry all the time. Well, nobody wants to feel hungry all the time.
Yeah.
So one of the things you can do is you could drown the gremlin. Drink a bunch of water. And if it goes away in 45 minutes, you fill your stomach up with a liquid and it goes away, you weren't hungry. It was just a hormone response. Right. And ghrelin spikes about an hour before we eat, if you eat routinely.
At certain times.
And it eventually just drops off after 3 days. Now, I know most people don't fast for 3 days, but it actually doesn't end up just completely going away. Because your body's just going to we're only going to use fat for energy now.
Yeah. And we've been on longer fasts, and I know this sounds crazy, but it is the truth, where you get to a point that you're not hungry, and eating food is just something that other people do, and it's not that you're hungry, but you just miss the taste of food.
Sure.
It's not, so it's an odd feeling to get to that point,
right.
In longer fasts for people, but it does happen.
Yep.
So the more often you fast, the more it resets your hormones, like your satiety hormones, your ghrelin, and all of the other hormones in your body. It helps reset all of those things and improves how your body works.
Yeah. It helps with the gremlin. Okay. And Brianne mentioned the satiety hormones. Mm-hmm. Satiety hormones are the I feel full hormones.
Right.
And we have beaten those down in the American culture.
To where they're non-existent.
Yeah, because it was this whole, like, you have to finish your food on your plate. Yeah. You know, eat all your food, even if you're not hungry. Toddlers are really good at listening to their satiety hormones. I'm not even hungry. I'll eat a little bit. I'm not hungry. I'm going to stop.
They're pretty good at
So I'm telling you right now, you do not have to clean your plate. The person in the foreign country that your parents told you is starving, you know, they're not going to thank you if you meet them one day and say, you know what, I wasn't hungry, but I ate all my food because of you. They're not going to be like, oh, thank you. That was really, I appreciate you doing that for me. That's never going to happen. So I'm giving you permission to stop eating when you're full, and you will find that you will get fuller and feel full sooner the more you fast. This one actually goes with it. This one is I get low blood sugar, I get hypoglycemic, I can't fast. And that was actually my medical excuse. I was like, I can't fast, I get hypoglycemic. I can feel my body shaking, and that's that ghrelin hormone. It's all in the same thing. And yeah, maybe that first time you have to break your fast early, so break it with real food. And so your body will again to start to reset that. That's that really strong ghrelin spike. It's insulin resistance. And so your body would just basically overuse the insulin and then crash. And that's basically what I feel like happens. And your blood sugar would drop. And so if you're getting those hypoglycemic things, try to go a little extra hour, see if you can drown it. Let your body kind of push that human growth hormone and choose good, healthy food choices that aren't going to spike your insulin again and make the crash happen again.
Right, exactly. And the more often that you fast, the easier it is and the fewer low blood sugar episodes that you'll have because you're improving your metabolism and you're getting out of that insulin resistance and that problem with your metabolism. So fasting can improve that. And we've seen everyone that we've worked with that had low blood sugar issues to begin with, that goes away.
Myself included.
When they start fasting.
And their hangry goes away, and being hangry goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like life gets easier.
Yeah, and there's
food.
A multitude of medical diagnoses actually have been shown to improve with fasting.
Yeah.
So if you have a medical diagnosis, you're not sure you can fast. It's actually an alternative, basically, that they're now saying physicians should recommend fasting for a multitude of health conditions.
Yeah.
So your health condition might be on the list. So maybe you should fast if you have that condition. Now, maybe you shouldn't, or maybe you can't. On the religious side, there's an obedience side to why we should fast. So Matthew goes to the Beatitudes and tells you all the things that you're supposed to do. And right in the middle of that, it says, when you fast and when you pray. Now...
Yeah, and Jesus is speaking.
He's telling everybody all these things you're supposed to do. Don't judge, unless you be judged. And when you fast and then when you pray. They're like right there. And everybody's like, well, I should pray. But somehow, this whole thing, everybody's like, well, that one is optional. Because this whole list...
So somehow we gloss over the fasting part as being part of that verse.
Right.
It's kind of been ignored.
Yeah. And because he talks to his disciples when he's here, they're not fasting. But then he says, when I'm gone, they will fast. He says that they will fast.
Yeah.
And so at the very end of all this stuff, which includes fasting, it's not optional. You have to... If you make fasting optional, you have to say that he made prayer optional. Good luck.
Yeah.
In Matthew 7, it says, therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to the wise man who built his house on the rock. But if you don't do them, you're the fool that built your house in the sand. Right. And great is the destruction of when it falls. So whoever hears these words, all of them, doesn't make any of them optional, including fasting, is the wise man who built his house on a rock. So there's an obedience factor to it as well.
I would encourage anyone who struggles with fasting, you've tried fasting, you've struggled with it, or with the idea of fasting, to pray about it.
Yep.
And ask for God's help in your fasting, because he wants to help you be the healthiest person that you can be, and he wants to help you be closer to him, which is what fasting is all about.
Yep.
So, yeah, involve him in your fasting.
Yep. And if you do have one of those probably extremely rare medical conditions that say you actually can't fast, then you could fast for something else besides food. From wrong thinking, whether it be prideful or negative thinking.
Well, negative thoughts, we've done a fast on that before. Very transformative.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can fast from social media. That's very beneficial for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Except for the Kingdom Fasting podcast. You should never fast from that.
That's right. Well, and also I heard someone was doing a fast, like a 40-day fast from negative, not just negative thinking, but from complaining. And I was like, oh, what a great fast. You know?
From complaining?
Let's not be like the Israelites. Let's transform our thinking and how we see things.
That'd be a good one.
So, yeah. Also fasting from sugar is an excellent fast, which will actually help it make it easier for you to fast.
Yes.
That is one of our hacks for when you're struggling to fast, is to eliminate sugar from your diet as much as you can, and it will become easier for you to fast because it will decrease the ghrelin spikes, the intensity of the ghrelin spikes that you have, and so it'll be easier to fast.
Yeah.
Because the spikes in insulin, like he was talking about with the blood sugar, causes, if you have a spike in insulin, then you have a dip, and that's what causes those low blood sugar episodes, hypoglycemic episodes. So the more sugar you eliminate from your diet, the better.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the things we recommend if you're new to fasting. We say, especially if you want to do a fast the next day, we say don't do sweeteners the day before. Right. And that really helps, because if you have sweeteners, the next day you're going to get hungry right at that time.
Yeah, you will be really hungry.
And so actually, and we say no sweeteners, because artificial sweeteners or non-nutritive sweeteners, even like monk fruit and xylitol, all those things, well, one, they have a higher insulin response. They don't have a blood sugar response, but they have a higher insulin response. And so what people tend to do is when they study this, if I have a diet drink that has a sweetener in it but doesn't have any calories, your body's like, well, I was going to get that. I tasted something sweet. So there's a brain response that says insulin's going to go up. Elevates the insulin, says, well, I didn't get those calories I thought I was going to get. So you know what they do? They overeat their next meal. Your body compensates for the calories it thought it was going to get.
Yeah.
So you'll overeat your next meal.
Crazy. So.
And there's other health problems that come with that too. It's actually worse than sugar with with something called metabolic syndrome. And we'll go into that another time. But non-nutritive sweeteners are worse than sugar. Just no sweeteners the day before.
Yeah.
Or fast from sweeteners for a week. Try that.
And then dive into doing some fasting.
Yeah.
So
that's another way you can still eat and
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or fast from processed food. That'd be a huge one. Just only eat real food.
Also really.
Yeah. If you can look at it, know what it is, boom, it's on the menu.
So there's lots of ways you can fast and lots of sort of biohacking ways to make it easier. So we're going to continue to share those here, so we hope you'll stay tuned.
Now I have a question for you. I have a medication that I actually am supposed to take with food. How can I fast and still take this medication?
That is an excellent question.
Thank you. I thought that was really good myself, actually.
We get that question a ton. And the answer is you can take the medication on an empty stomach still, as long as you drink a lot of water with it. So when we are fasting, we take our multivitamins or medications that we have to take daily. We'll take those and we'll drink a whole cup of water with it to help water down, fill up the stomach for digestion and stuff. And it makes a huge difference. So we haven't been experiencing any nausea like we used to once we started taking it with more water. You also can take your multivitamin or your medication or whatever with a fasting fuel, and we're going to talk about that in one of our next episodes quite soon. But basically, just a small amount of food that is fat or protein that won't break your fast and won't make you hungry. When I take my multivitamins, I also will take a spoonful of yogurt or a bite of sauerkraut or something that has probiotics in it, because I need that every day because I don't have my appendix anymore. So if you have something like that, those kind of tools can work for you. If the water, drowning the meds with some water doesn't work, then you can do that too. Yep. So works really well.
And that's typically what I do. Is I'll drink a bunch of water, at least a cup of water, maybe a little more, and then I'll take the pills so it doesn't hit an empty stomach, and then I'll drink it. But if I don't do that ahead of time, then I can get queasy and I can get nauseous. Yeah. So that's my typical strategy. But another strategy that I would utilize would be using a fasting fuel, which, as Brandon mentioned, we'll talk about those in the future.
Yeah. Another great one is just kind of waking up your stomach a little bit with some lemon water or bone broth before you take your medication. while you're fasting. That also works really well.
Yeah, and that'd be a fasting fuel. Yep.
Yeah. There you have it. Your medications don't have to keep you from fasting. You can still fast and take a daily medication.
Comment below if we have a question about fasting we haven't addressed. We'd love to talk about it on a future episode.
Yeah, and if this was helpful to you, especially for beginner fasters and getting started, we really hope that you will share it with someone you love. Thanks for being here, and thanks for listening.